Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about the private school scholarship game in Sydney. Now, the private school game in Sydney, this game in Sydney is really intense. Now, the reason for this because of the competition between the selective schools and the private schools. So, the first thing we need to look at is a question. What is this you're all about? Now, in Sydney, there is a competition between the private schools and the public selective schools. Now, the private school, they think that the creation of selective school is the attempt by the government um, to show that public school education is better. And in New South Wales, tend to be among the top schools when it comes to academic performance. In Sydney, you always have those top schools like James Bruce, North Sydney Boy, North Sydney Girl, Sydney Boy, Sydney Girl, stay right at the top. But recently, you start to see some of the best private school like Sydney Grammar, which is also a selective school anyway. And then you have, other top school like POC Sydney, like Kambala. And in the North Shore, you have school like Pimple Ladies. These are private school are very competitive. And part of the game, they have to take in the top student. And how do they do that? Well, simple. They offer scholarship. Now, so the question that many parents start to ask is about these scholarship. Well, are they better alternatives for government selective schools? Now, we'll talk about that, but the general impression that I get over the years is that these top schools are very good. And you don't talk about the student or the student in this school. You talk about the top ones. Each of the school tend to have about 25 students right at the top. And these students are very competitive. Now, most of these students have scholarships and they will be competing for the top courses at a university. So if you're talking about courses like medicine, dentistry, and the top end engineering, the top student from the top schools, the private ones, I mean, they are very competitive. Now, so you ask yourself the question, why would you want your child to sit a scholarship test? Now, the first reason is that you probably want to have a chance to win a scholarship and access to what they call the elite your private school education. Now, in Australia, they have kind of a slang. They call these top school as the sandstone gates. Now, basically, these are rich schools. They were built a long time ago. And you have sandstone just somewhere in the school. Now, usually at the gate and the main building. This is a symbol, for top education. And the second reason you probably want to send your child to sit a private school test is it gives you a fairly reliable measure of the performance. So you know how competitive your child is. Now, provided that you pick a school that will give you a report. Now, some of these are private school, you sit the test and you don't get anything back. You may, get, an offer. of interview, but they don't give you a report. So in that sense, you don't get this sort of thing. But many schools will give you a report, and you can see in the report how your child compare. Like in the top 4% or the top 1% or the top 10% for each of the areas. Okay, so how do they play this game? Now, basically, in Sydney, you have what I call the early scholarship test. Now, some of the school, about 5 or 6, want to run the test in year 5. So they offer these tests around August, all the way to October, when the students are in year 5. Now, I don't know why they do that, but the general idea is that they probably want to get the process out of the way quickly, or they want to jump into the game early and try to get the top student. That probably is what they think. Now, the rest of the school tend to offer the scholarship at the beginning of year 6 in February to around March. The time frame for these tests is around August to October, when the students are in year 5. Now, the next question that I think parents want to know is who will have a chance? And are these tests suitable for your child? Now, this is something that many parents have no idea. They think that it's simple. You get your child to work very hard, try to study ahead, go to tutoring or have a private tutor or something like that. And you just send your child to attend these tests and you will have a chance. Now, this is not that simple. The first thing is that the student have to be very, very good. The second thing is that these students have to be well ahead of other students. And the third thing, very unusual, but the parents don't realize it, is that the children have to be older than other students. Now, this is something probably nobody knows. The parents don't know that the performance of a child depends on how smart that student is, and also depends on how much effort, how much learning the child put in, and more importantly, how mature the child is, and that means how old the child is. Now, there is a game that has been going on for years that parents probably don't know. The rich parents, they delay their kids. They don't want their kids to go into school early at all. They want the kids to be older, stronger, more mature. So they send the kid to do all the things like music and sport and all that. And they delay. So the chance to win these scholarships depends on many things. But as I said, the three main things: how smart the child is, how much the child has learned, and how old the child is. So the chance is really, really good for the kids who are smart, mature, and older than the other kids. Now, next, which school offer these tests? All right, so I have a list here. So Ravenwood, MLC, Winona, your Pimble Lady, your Everglades, and Barker. Now, not all of these schools will offer you a report. For example, Ravenwood, Everglades, and Barker, I know, will not give you any report. Now, so if you think that your child can win an offer, then you would send to the school. Well, otherwise, it would be much better to try MLC, Winona, Pimble. The reason is because they actually give you a report. so you know. Now, the other issues is that most of these schools are just for the girls. Now, Barker will take boys. Okay? So the chance for the boy, is really not there, right? So this is mainly for the girls. But keep that in mind. Um, if you have a boy and you want to send a boy to the top your private school, you might as well, do the preparation. Because without the preparation, the chance is really small. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about the preparation. Okay, the first thing is that my website in mathematics provide all the resources. Next, I provide the early scholarship guide. I also have a guide for the student on my system. It is called the early scholarship module. Now, this is a module on my website that help the student to track the progress, the kind of test that they do and the timeline, to sort of get to the right time. Now, I also have a special class called the X class. The idea is that if I have enough strong students who wish to get help, I can organize a special class. This will be online and it will have all the resources. And I will give the student 2 hours each week where I talk about topics. I explain about many things and I get them to do work. And I help to monitor and make sure that they do the right kind of thing. Okay, so the next thing in the video is going to be the information about the resources and about the guide. Now, okay, guys. What I'm going to do now is to talk about the resources and the strategy that I help students to prepare for a scholarship test. Especially the early test. Okay, so the first thing that I like you to have a look at is the document that I have on the page, quick links. Now, you see here, quick links right on the top of the page when you log on, or the quick links can be on the bottom right of the window when you log on. Okay, so we go into that. Now, it gives you access to a lot of a document. Now, there are just so many of them, okay? Now, what you look for is the scholarship guide. Now, here I have the early scholarship preparation tracking for year 5. I have the early scholarship guide for 2027. Okay, so this is a document. Now, every single year you will see it. Now, basically, so if you look at the number 2027 and the time now is 2025. Why? Because the early scholarship test, they do it nearly 2 years ahead. And the student do the test in year 5 and they enter the school in 2 years after that. All right, so you just think about the current year and then you add 2 more years and that will be the entry year. The student enter those school in year 7, but they sit the test in year 5. Okay, so I open that. Now this is the document and I update the document every year. All right, so so I'll give an idea what school offer. I talk about the preparation. I talking about the test series that need to be done and how many tests should be done. And I mentioned about creative writing. Now this is probably the most difficult part. Creative writing is hard, and the student really have to work on this, and they need to get to the top 4%. Otherwise, they don't really have a chance. And I mentioned about important document that the parents should be reading. Now, I know, it's a lot of things that the parents, have to worry about. And this will keep mom and dad quite busy. This is a very difficult game. All right, and then I have a visual graph, give an idea how the kids get on the path to high performance. Now, basically, first they complete my OC program, and then now that happened at year 4, and then by February of year 5, they will complete a revision of the OC program, and they move on. By around March of year 5, they would complete all the theory of year 6 school math, and they enter a very intensive year period. And I actually break it up into 3, the period 1 and 2 and 3 at different times, so the students have the time, to relax for the Christmas and New Year and all that. But basically, from around March to October of year 5, they would have to work fairly hard, and then they have a break for Christmas and New Year, and after that they have January to March of year 6 that they have to work hard to prepare for scholarship tests and also for the selective school test. Now, and the area that they need to work on: reading, general reading, a lot of reading, math problem solving. Yeah, this is really difficult. They have to develop real skill in their problem solving, and they have to improve their reading skill. They have to improve vocab, grammar for writing, and in writing they have to improve so many things. They have to improve the quality of the sentence, word choices, and sentence word expression, paragraph quality, dialogue, narrative, and a little bit of persuasive. But most of the time, narrative is what they need to focus on. And then they have to do what is called general ability. Now, this is the sort of skill that the student have to do in the older selective tests year ago, but this continue for scholarship tests. And then they have to do the thinking skill for the selective school test. All right, so that is the guide. Now, parents should be reading your document. Now, and then they also find the tracking sheet. Okay, so if they want to, they can do this. But now it is a lot more convenient that they just get onto the tracking module that I built, on the website. So we'll talk about that later. And I have more document about the ASER format. I have many things, but very important document you find here, like math problem solving strategy year 4 to 5, and the math problem solving strategy for year 6 to 7. Now, the math lesson guide is also very important. It guide mom and dad to get the student to cover the entire year 6 within a few weeks, that sort of thing. And then down here, I have so many documents about writing, but one resource, the most important document that actually cover most of the other one as well, is a very big guide. It's called the Guide for Scholarship and Selective Test Writing. You click on that. Now you get the guide. This is a massive document. You see, it got over 60 pages. It got all sort of things. It mentioned about techniques, and it gives you example, of good writing and all that kind of thing. So this is really important. Now, again, the parent can be quite busy. I mean, you have to read through and help your child. Well, the alternative is you get a tutor, but by reading and know about all these things, you will be able to make your own assessment whether the tutor is actually doing a proper job. Otherwise you pay, the tutor and waste the time, and you have no idea whether the tutor actually getting the job done. Okay. All right. And so I have, really awesome stuff like the narrative essential cheat sheet. Now it gives you a, a good summary of what needs to be done and what the kid need to achieve. So yes, I have a ton of your document here, but I know that mom and dad don't want to read. So please try to read some of the most important thing. And if you need support, you can always contact me on by email or a Viber, and I'll give you hint and tips and all that kind of thing. Okay, so that is about the guide. Now the next thing I want to show you is the module for tracking. Now I call it the early scholarship plan. Now, as a student, um, your child get into the plan, and you will see that um, it has been designed to track student. Now, it designed to track the student for 12 weeks. Now, the idea is that you want to start working on early scholarship tests around 12 weeks, away from the date of the first test in August. Now, you need that much time to prepare. So you start from week number 12 away from the date of the first test, and then you work toward the end. Now, this particular student, look at it. The student already finished like week number 12, week number 11, week number 10, which is indicated in red, which is the current week for the year. And the student already, like have done a fair bit of the work. So you have only 2 tests left over for week 9, 1 test left over for week 8. Now, this is the minimum amount of work. Now, the hardworking student, because they have done so much work on the website, so this student almost complete the entire thing. So there is no test left over for week 1 and week 2. So this student is almost ready. Yeah, right. So this is a very handy tool for tracking your progress. Now, obviously, if you work so hard, if your child works so hard and do a lot of work, the chances are, when you get into this and look at it, all the work already done. Now, this is the minimum. Okay. Now, your child can do a lot more, of course. Now, you look at the overall average. This is 73. That's not very good. Now, to get a real chance, the average should be around 82 to 85. Okay, now plus with writing is a different thing altogether. So that the early scholarship tracking plan. Now, all right, now I'm going to talk about my X class. Now, this is a group of students. Now, if I have enough mom and dad interests and they have strong performance, what I tend to do every year is to group some of the top performers into a group where I run a lesson weekly for 2 hours each week. Now, the idea is I help these top students to do all the writing and help them to track their performance and get them ready for the scholarship test. Now, I have been running this from 2022 to 2025, and every single year, we win scholarships. Some year we win 3 or 4, some year we get 5 or 6. Now, so I have been running this for a few years, and every single year we win scholarships. Now, the purpose of the class is to help students to get distinction and high distinction in ICAS, the competition, help them to prepare for the early scholarship between August and November. Now, here are the components. Now, basically, I get the student in the class to do my advanced year 5 to 6 math workshop. The Google class is online with a video lesson. They have access to the Google Writing Workshop, online as well. These are the components of the class. We work on math problem solving. We work on writing. Now we have a session, Zoom session. I divide that into two parts because the part one is for the early scholarship test, and part two in January of year 6 is for the main season. All right. Now, and how do you join? Now, basically, I look at the student on my website, and invite the high performers. Now, if you are not on my website at the moment, it is okay. Just join in for a free trial account, get some tests done, and I'll look at the score and I will know. Yeah, so you can email me, and we'll have a chat about that kind of thing. All right, now the X class has a Google Class set up for it where I post all the recording of all the lessons and all the resources that I like students to look at. Now we cover all sorts of things: math problem solving, comprehension, general ability, verbal and non-verbal reasoning. We also plan to do ICAS, so the student are encouraged to do tests in science and technology. Now, so a lot of these activities, are offered on the website with all the resources. And in the live Zoom session, we focus mainly on the writing and the skill to win a scholarship. I'll take the student through a lot of things, tracking their progress. I review the hardest failed question that they fail. So I do a variety of activities to keep them on track. And the focus is very strong in writing, and coaching the student to help them win scholarships. Now, so we have the description of all the work the student have to do. Now, the training modules on my website, I have designed an enormous amount of training modules, and they are backed by AI. So the student who prepare for scholarship should be doing a lot of activities, and they will be so busy that they don't have time to go to tutoring shop, really. Now, so I like them to listen to classic tales because they are wonderful example of good writing. I want the student to do recommended reading of classic texts. I want them to use my module for reading skill backed by AI. I want the student to work on advanced words so they know a lot about words and can have very good word choices for their writing. I want them to track their progress using the early scholarship plan. I want them to practice on the sort of English question that they may see in scholarship tests. And this include word close, your jumble words. And I have stuff based on AI to help students to improve their word choices for narrative writing. So word choice assistant, sentence assistant, a paragraph assistant, and finally a really important module called copycat. Now, it has a funny name, but this one is a main module to train students to improve their writing. Now, the idea is that they should not worry too much about writing the original work. What they should do is they should copy ideas from work written by adults. So they don't use the silly ideas. They use good ideas that they read from books and things like that. And with the backing up of the AI, well, copycat helps students to train to write really well. All right, so we'll talk about those things. Now, so the student will be very busy having access to all of these things. And then we have goals. We want to do well in ICAS. We want to do well in the early scholarship test. And here is the timetable. Now, so this is for 2025. So every year I update this and I mark down the date for the test at some of the schools. Yeah, so this is the document for the X class. Now, the membership of the X class is by invitation. I need to have around 5 students to run it. And I invite the strong student to join. Now, if you know strong students who are not on my website, that's okay. Just get on my website and get a free trial account, get some tests done, and show me the performance. And if I think the student is suitable, I will invite the student to join. So guys, so in a summary, my website, Mathematics, provide all the resources you need to prepare for scholarship tests. And on my website, it is important to read the early scholarship guide and to use the module, the early scholarship year tracking module on my website to make sure that a minimum amount of work you get done. And you don't need it, but for the top student, to get a really high chance to get interview, I have the X class. Now, if I have enough students, now so far every single year, I has been running this with about 5 students to about 8 students. And every single year, the member of the X class, they get interviews and they win scholarships. So it's pretty simple, but students don't have to join the X class. If they are busy doing a lot of work at home or tutoring, they can make use of the resources and the support on my website to prepare for the scholarship test.